Whenever there's a genre that isn't relevant anymore, what do? A. Change to another genre to appeal to a larger audience? Or B. Use the same genre but blend into the new genre, which makes your fans confused if that's the same band they're listening to. Which band was involved with this? Bowery Electric. You probably only know about them because of their second album, Beat. Honestly, please listen to their other albums after you finish watching this video. They were making kind of music that not many bands were making in the 90s, and they did it perfectly. They're a little mysterious since they rarely give interviews and have little footage of their shows, yet they're regarded as the best shoegaze, post-rock, ambient, and trip-hop band ever. Let's talk about Bowery Electric and its history. Bowery Electric was formed in 1993 in New York City. The members were Lawrence Schindler and Martha Schwindener. Lawrence had an interest in making music when he was younger, but never fully pursued it. That wasn't until he was diagnosed with leukemia that he started to learn to play guitar at the hospital. It is hard to find about Martha's music history, but she was a bassist in an unknown Riot Grrrl band. They met each other while both of them were working at Andy Warhol's Interview magazine. They shared similar musical tastes and were making trendy musical style at the time. They needed a third member, so they brought Michael Jongren as a drummer to complete their trio. They played tons of shows and recorded their debut self-titled EP in '94, although fans refer to this as Drop or Untitled. The EP has a moody shoegaze atmosphere that evokes the genre's heyday. They often repeat lyrics about love, fear, and dreams. They share vocals on each track, which was common in shoegaze, although Lawrence had 2 tracks. A year later, they signed to Cranky Records, started recording their debut album, and released it on August 16, 1995. The album is a blend of shoegaze, post-rock, and drone, with some tracks being instrumental, playing longer tracks, and focusing more on guitar and bass sounds. It's a great shoegaze album that was overlooked because the genre was dying at this point. Michael Jongren left the band for unknown reasons. But you think they need a new member, right? No, they didn't, so they became a duo after he left. They signed to new label Beggar's Banquet but were still with Cranky Records. In summer 1996, they brought engineer Rich Costey and used him as a sampler for their upcoming album, which also taught the band how to sample and create their own beats. Why did they need a sampler in the first place? Well, they were finding new material for their music because shoegaze was dying, with many bands in the genre either breaking up or moving to other genres. They were happy to find a new genre to blend into with more hardware. Chandler was heavily inspired by the city's music scene, including hip-hop and electronic, as well as by the composer Lamonte Young, who also worked on the album. On November 12, 1996, they released their second album, Beat. Beat was very different from their first album, as it leaned more towards trip-hop than their early shoegaze catalog, and they ended up using sampling, looping, and dub bass to fit the album's mood. It wasn't a fully trip-hop album since they still blended in shoegaze, post-rock, and drone on each track. Trip-hop dominated the genre in the mid to late 90s thanks to acts like Massive Attack and Portishead bringing it into the mainstream. They were even on movie soundtracks and commercials. The lyrical content is a bit different since they talk about life half the time. I find it funny that their first 2 tracks on the album felt like they were dissing the old genre they used to make and kept repeating it until the song ended. This album surprisingly received positive reviews from fans and critics for its new material and for blending the genre the perfect way. A year later, they dropped their second EP, Vertigo. It contains most of the remixes of the original tracks from Beat, but the first track is the same as the original and it also includes a new track at the end. However, they left Cranky Records. In 1999, they began recording for their new album, but it would be slightly different than their last 2 albums. On January 24, 2000, they released their single, Freedom Fighter, which includes 2 original tracks and 2 remixes, and released its music video. They released their album, titled Lush Life, on February 26, 2000. This album is a straight trip-hop album. There is no blending of genres like shoegaze, post-rock, or even drone tracks, just completely trip-hop. It uses more samples than their last album, such as Susie and the Banshees, James Brown, and Nick Drake.
Filming records of the hour.
The album shows more hip-hop influence with tons of scratches and references to other rap songs. The lyrics are less repetitive and the content addresses being forgotten, war, and life in the city. I'm not saying a lot of people hated this album when it came out because I don't know what the audience thought of it, but we do see critics give them mixed reviews. It is my favorite album by them. I know it's a controversial opinion, but oh my god, it is so fucking good. Hell, I'm a sucker for trip hop as a whole, so I may sound biased. The productions are top notch and their vocals are so good, setting the mood of that nighttime in the cities. They went desperate when this album was released since they had already released their music video before the album dropped and trip hop was dying in the early 2000s. Unless it was Gorillaz. Right after they finished touring, they went on hiatus and never returned together. So where are they now? 25 years after they disbanded. Lawrence Chandler studied composition privately at the Juilliard School and completed a Master of Music in Composition from Goldsmiths College. He has performed with the ambient band, Experimental Audio Research. He returned to make music in 2009 and released his solo album, The Tuning of the World. He also formed a shoegaze duo with Lucia Farrow called Happy Families, and released their only single, New Forgetting and I Remember You. Martha Schwindener continued making music and released her only solo album to date, Sola, under her alias Echo Star, but went on hiatus after its release. She's a visiting professor in the art department at the Steinhardt School, author of the New York University, and a critic for the New York Times. She has taught at so many colleges, which I can't name because it's pretty long. 2 decades later, she returned and released her DJ Mix album on NTS Monday. While they weren't well known during their career, they gained a cult following after they disbanded, and even their first 2 albums were considered essential to the shoegaze, post-rock, and trip hop genres. Beat became one of their best and most well-known albums, which is why numerous articles have been written about it. They were one of the few bands in the 90s that perfectly blended rock and electronic music throughout their whole career. Cranky Records reissued 3 of their albums on CD and vinyl 20 years later, except for Lush Life, which they released with Beggar's Banquet. Even if they never reunite, they will be remembered as the band that was ahead of its time, with other bands following their footsteps. Well, this was the story of Bowery Electric. Hey, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I just want to say thank you so much for watching, consider like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you next time.